Worms World Party will be the fourth entry in the iconic series of Worms strategy games that would see a release on the PlayStation, Windows PC, Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo Game Boy Advance, and even on the Nokia N-Gage, that would see a release originally in 2001 and would later be ported to other platforms thereafter. And this game just carries on the role of the iconic elements seen in previous games, primarily with Worms Armageddon, as it uses very similar graphical elements and styles, gameplay features, sound effects and so forth that were iconic in that game, with the ability to play multiplayer. And even at the time when it was released, especially if you had the PC version, you could play it online against friends, which added to the whole dynamic of the game. And if you played any of the previous games in the Worms series, you'll know how fun they are. They genuinely are just a really good fun pick up and play game, even though they're more strategy focused, but there's a load of mad and funny elements to have in these games, as you will just genuinely have a blast playing them, as they genuinely are so funny, as it offers up a great mix of different dynamics and strategies that you have to use a variety of different weapon types, anything from bazookas, handguns, machine guns, airstrikes, pretty much anything you can think of to take advantage of the situation. And you also do have to contend with different weather effects that, when you shoot weapons, it can have a direct impact on the placement of where projectiles are going to end up flying towards. So it can either work against you or it can work with you, depending on the situation and who you're trying to shoot at primarily. But it is just a lot of fun. Again, it plays very, very similar, almost identical to Worms Armageddon, but it just expands with different types of levels, a different variety of features, even some additional weapons that will cause even more damage and devastation. There was also a remastered version of Worms World Party that was ended up being released on both Steam and Good Old Games or GOG.com in 2015 that allowed the game to be upscaled to HD graphics and run at 1080p at 60 frames per second. So if you're looking for a more up-to-date version of the game, that would be a version that I highly recommend you check out. And even going back to my own personal experience with the game, I had played the original Worms game years ago, and although I did like it, but I found it a bit cumbersome and not really sure of what to do and how to play it properly. But it was with Worms World Party that I really fell in love with the franchise, and I had a lot of fun with it. And it was around the time, say late 2001, early 2002, I had gotten my first PC because I was at college studying IT at the time, and while I was supposed to be doing college assignments, I was also playing games. I'm not going to deny that. I should have been doing a lot more work, but I wasn't. And I found myself getting into playing games like Half-Life, Deus Ex, among many others. But one game that really appealed to me an awful lot, which a game that I never would have really recommended to myself or even thought that I would have enjoyed as much, was Worms World Party. Again, because it was a very different take on a very different style of game from the typical games that I would be more familiar or used to playing, because I like more racing games and action focused games, but from time to time I do like to dabble with different types of games. So when I came across this, I managed to get access to a demo of it. I bought one of the PC games magazines that came with a DVD disc that had a load of different types of demos on it, and Worms World Party was on it, and I couldn't wait to install it just to try it out. And from the get-go, I was addicted. Once I figured out the controls, and it was easier to play on the PC compared to the console because you could use the mouse and the whole lot. If I'll be brutally honest, the PC version for me is the definitive version, because when you have access to the mouse and the keyboard, you can access all of the quick shortcuts to all the buttons and weapons much faster. And just that one demo, it gave you access to a couple of different levels, and you could also play a multiplayer level as well. You could play it with some of your friends, and it was a blast. I have to say, I was addicted to the game, so much so that a few months later the game had been re-released under a bargain selection of games on the PC, and I remember seeing it in a game store for about £5 at the time, or €5, and I snapped it up straight away. I didn't even wait to think about it, because I knew how addictive it was, and I knew that I would have enjoyed it, and I did. And I remember taking it home, installing it on my PC, and again, I played it every opportunity I got, which is crazy because it's not the typical type of game that I would usually play, but I found myself being absolutely addicted to this game. It was so much fun. I love all of the quirky, cheesy nature of the game. I just love the one-liners and the sound effects, and just I'd be in stitches laughing and giggling the whole time when I was playing it. That was, for me, was the funny element of it. It wasn't so much whether I won or lost games. It was just the laughs I was having when I was playing the the game, and that just brought it all to a whole new level for me. And it showed to me that strategy games can be a lot of fun, because I would never have really played strategy games as much. I would have played a few here and there, and there were some ones I really did enjoy back in the day, even on the likes of the PlayStation, and even with other types of unique kind of tactics based games and strategies with the likes of XCOM Enemy Unknown, because my brothers and my mates used to love that game. But I found myself really getting into Worms, and the funny thing is then I was raving about it that much that my mates and even my brothers started playing it, and they also found it really addictive as well. So we used to all have a blast playing this. This game really is just, it's a classic in all regards, and it's definitely one of my personal favourite strategy games that I've ever played. Regardless of which platform you're playing it on, whether it's the PlayStation or the PC, I highly recommend you play this game. Now, me personally, my favourite version of the game would be the PC again, because I just found the controls to be much easier to get used to. But that doesn't take away from the PlayStation version. PlayStation version is equally as good. If you can get used to the controller setup, you will equally have a blast. And it's one of those games that's so much fun to play with your mates or family members. It's just so addictive. It's just lots of fun elements, one-liners, cheeky kind of elements, and just great use of graphics, sound effects. There's a lot going on. It just genuinely is a lot of fun, and it's easy to see why the game got a remaster a few years back, because the game is iconic. It is as popular, and it is one of the most popular games in the Worms series even to this day. So I highly recommend you try out Worms World Party if you haven't done it, or even if you have, go back and revisit it. It's a classic, and you will have those laughs all over again, that I can guarantee. Even recording this video again, I found myself just couldn't help but laughing at the game as well. So that'll tell you that it still has that lasting appeal. It's just one of those iconic games, even though there was loads of later entries and spin-offs, even with the graphics going to 3D and stuff. But I still prefer this game in particular, 2D visuals. Worms World Party would be my personal favourite within the Worms series in general. I just love the game. I just think it's hilarious. But I would love to know your thoughts on Worms World Party for the PlayStation, and if so, what did you think of the game overall? Did you enjoy playing this iconic game, and did you have a blast playing it as well? I'd love to hear whatever stories you do have of this game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be updated of future videos. And if you would like to see more content on the channel around other types of strategy games similar to Worms that were also released on the PlayStation, you can check out this playlist here on the screen to see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.